Yo, what's going on, guys? Jay here, and today, I'm finally going to talk to you guys about Watching the Party Die. This track came out a week ago to the day, almost a week ago to the hour. It's been like an hour and a half since 5. This was released at 5 on September 11th, 2024. It is September 18th right now, 6:37 to be exact, in case you were wondering. But man, I've been waiting to talk about this one. Oh my god. I mean, of course, I did a little reel talking about my first reactions, first thoughts on it. Having a moment to sit with it, a nice little week to sit with it, see what other people have to say is nice. Shout out to Professor Sky Record Review. Shout out to the company man, Justin Hunt, NFR Podcast, and various people on Instagram who I've been paying attention to their takes, seeing what they have to say. Again, if you saw my reel, you know that I was reiterating a lot of stuff that they went on to say or other people went on to say before their stuff dropped. I know a lot of people might come in here and say, I'm recycling. Nah. Because I dropped my reel maybe 20 to 25 minutes after the song came out. And I was one of the first people to say that this is not about Drake. This is not about Drake the person. This is not about Aubrey Graham. This is about what Drake stands for. This is about the mainstream hip-hop scene. As I've said before in reels, in my Instagram, of course, go follow talking.hiphop if you don't know what's up over there. That's where I'm mainly at. But I've been saying this beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake is not as much about Drake as it is what Drake represents, as it is taking back hip-hop for the real artists and all that type of stuff. Again, shout out Professor Sky Record Reviews. He has said a battle for the soul of hip-hop, and I think that's a great way to put it. And yeah, this is not a continuation of the diss. No round twos here. No round twos for you, Drake. But yeah, this is just... I describe this as the epilogue. This is the epilogue to the beef. This is Kendrick Lamar. How do we move on from here, and what was this about, in my opinion? And I'm just going to go through Genius right now and give you guys the little rundown, the lyric breakdown, but not like, the lyric breakdown of... This is just like my interpretation of the song, what I think it means. So right now I'm on the Genius. Shout out to Soundwave, Jack Antonoff, Pasquet, and Anka Trio Plus One who produced this track. A lot of people thought it was Alchemist, and so did I. And let me just talk about the beat real quick. I love this it's a very calm, like relaxed boom bap instrumental. I love that vocal sample that's looped in the back, and there's like some kind of like tapping, like a, not about, like a, almost in the background. There's something haunting about this track. There's something very, I don't know, kind of like just like a lingering, like it's not an overtly sad or disappointing track. It's kind of like a lingering sadness. Like it's in the background. Like there's almost like not necessarily a remorse, but a very small level of remorse, actually, I would say. A sorrowful. This track is a little sorrowful in the production. And before we get into the lyrics, let's just hit the Genius, what this is about. I'm going to paraphrase, but his first musical release since the Super Bowl headliner, since Not Like Us. Additionally, the track was released at the start of the 2024 VMAs, a seemingly calculated move that underscores Kendrick's message. Much of the track expresses his frustration with the current state of the music industry and hip-hop culture, specifically critiquing what commercial artists like Drake represent. Materialism, hedonism, and the glorification of superficial success. And this is super important because Kendrick has always been about this. I mean, literally just today, I was re-listening to Real off of Good Kid, Mad City, which came out 14 damn years ago. And Kendrick, in this song, is talking about what it means to be real. And he has 3 verses in this track, and one, he kind of talks about, like, he generalizes the average experience of a woman from the type of place and come up he had. Does the same for a man, and then he does the same about himself, saying that none of them make him real. And then in these 3 verses, he kind of does very what's the word I'm looking for? He broadly generalizes. He's kind of talking about women as being hoes and men as being gangsta, and saying how that's not what makes them real. But then he's saying how he tries to do all this stuff, but he's still not real. And he talks about the materialism and the glorification of the success in his own verse. This is not new Kendrick messaging, right? This is not new Kendrick messaging. We know he is not the biggest fan of the fame, but he finds himself in this position where he feels the need to be a role model. So, like I said, this is a track at the hip hop industry because, again, let's just a little history lesson. When hip hop was invented in the 70s in the Bronx of New York, it started off to unify African American people who were being mistreated and neglected by the government in very urban and impoverished areas, right? And this type of music not only brought people together, but the artists at the time, and of course, you got to think to the 80s and 90s, NWA, Public Enemy. These artists were using this platform to not just bring their people together, but also to critique and, of course, in the case of like Public Enemy, the interlocking systems of oppression in America that African Americans were being held down by and are still being held down by, right? This was initially protest music, unifying music within the African American community in America. And nowadays, this is just a music that people make to not just vibe out to, but to sell. There are a lot of artists in the mainstream who are here to sell, who don't care about commercial visions or anything, and they see it as a business. And on the one hand, me personally, I think that's fine because music is a business. I mean, the pop genre itself makes sense. But also, I understand the other side where Kendrick Lamar sees himself as a bastion of hip-hop, right? He is not just a part of it in the sense he makes music, but he is a product of it and what hip-hop music is about and what the culture that is talked about throughout the music. That is all stuff that he is a product of himself, and now he is a bastion of it, a student of the game, and wants to help bring hip hop back to its roots. So, anyways, I've been yapping. I've definitely been yapping. Let's get into this track breakdown. So, of course, he starts off the track. I think it's time to watch the party die. This shit done got too wicked to apologize. It's different. Get him whacked and disqualified. Again, not talking to Drake, but talking about the situation, alluding to Drake, and kind of how maybe this situation went too far. Maybe he did more than he had to, but he's still at a point he wanted to prove and a message he wanted to get out. And Drake's career, Drake's dignity, Drake's image happens to be a victim of that. We even kill the killers because they like taking innocent lives, burn the whole village, we start over, it's really that time. Where, on the one hand, I think he's kind of just commenting again how much violence has to do with hip-hop culture, hip-hop music, and how it's still a problem, how that's something that artists have been speaking on in the black community since hip-hop's inception, and it is still a problem and more popularized than ever. And it is important that I note at this point that I am a white guy from the suburbs, right? So I'm not a part of this culture, but I am commenting on it with my observations and with the history that I know, with the love for the music that I have, and with the knowledge that I've gained. And throughout this verse, we kind of see Kendrick talking about the future that he envisions for hip-hop to a degree, right? He has very clever bars like, why argue with a clown if the circus is well at work? Which is just a good point in general. Why are you going to argue with someone whose opinion you can't change? And in that case, these people are clowns. He's talking again to the music industry. Just walk that man down. That'll do everyone a solid. It's love, but tough love gotta result in violence. Which, again, this translates to what I was saying about Kendrick being a student of hip-hop and being a part of hip-hop. The beef obviously didn't result in physical violence, but how personal and how vicious it got with Drake. Tough love's got to result in violence because his love for hip-hop outweighed his love for wanting to keep it a friendly fate, especially after Drake went and made it personal, as we've heard reported now. One of the most important set of bars in the song, if you parade in gluttony without giving truth to the youth, the graveyard is company, just tell us what casket to choose. And this is really where, again, this is not just like a shot at Drake, but it's a shot at popular rap music made by various different artists that just talks about, again, stuff that Drake popularized. I'm not going to name other artists because I don't want to be like, oh, Kendrick's dissing this guy. But again, you're going to think of some artists when I say some things right now. But he's essentially, of course, a gluttony is like taking an excess of bad things, right? If you're talking about that without giving truth to the youth, he's essentially saying, if you're out here glorifying exchanging drugs or Birkin bags for sexual favors from women, if you're out here rapping about doing all these drugs and going on so many different vacations and partying all the time and the excessive wealth you have without giving back to your predominant fan base, of course, as a rapper right now, is the youth, right? Without giving any type of life advice, personal gain, anything that actually could help the youth, the people who are listening to that music better themselves, he thinks you should be dead. Now, of course, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration, but this is for, as we'll get to later, the new world he imagines. and what he's saying with this track. They glorify scamming. You can get chipped over this credit card. Influencers talk down. I'm not with the basic shit, but they don't hate me. They hate the men. I represent the type of man that never dick ride because I want a favor. Kendrick just kind of touting his own authenticity here, right? Talking about how he does get hated on and he does not necessarily get blackballed from the industry because he is super popular, but he may be out of favor with a lot of people, especially, again, following the beef and all this stuff. Again, he's standing on business here. He's saying, well, I'm not the type of person who's gonna dick ride, who's gonna kiss ass just to get people to like me or just because I want something from them. Very respectable, and that's Kendrick himself giving to the youth. Again, we have more Kendrick giving back to the youth because, of course, like many rappers and artists, Kendrick glorifies negative things in his music or has or made them seem cool, right? He's rapped about being drunk and being high and being gang adjacent and being with women a lot, right? Like, but the thing that makes Kendrick real is he's also rapped about the negatives. You think about a track like Swimming Pools where he talks about alcoholism. You think about the whole Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers where he talks about how his infidelity addiction essentially ran through his marriage. Of course, I can't comment on exactly what that relationship is like because they are still together, him and Whitney, but he does talk about how difficult that was for him and how it was. He has so much regret, personal regret on that album about that stuff. So, again, he's rapping about gluttony at points, but he has given truth to the youth about who he is, about his mistakes, and about the dangers that lie within some of these things. Here we're still going on the first verse, where he finishes it off saying stuff like, I feel for the women that deal with the clown and nerd shit, can't blame them today, they ain't really got much to work with. How many bitches harder than a lot of you guys would trade all of y'all for Nip, I can't be proud of you. Where again, here he's kind of referencing, saying he feels for the women who have to deal with all this bullshit that, again, misogyny is so popular in popular music right now, right? Not just in hip-hop, in R&B, even in pop. You look at The Weeknd, Future, 21 Savage, all these rappers and artists who are extremely popular. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong. I literally got the Future shirt on right now. I literally got the Future and Metro shirt on right now. But you're stupid to say that there's not glorified misogyny within their music heavily, with the way they discuss and objectify women in their music and essentially just treat them like objects for sexual pleasure. Of course, you have The Weeknd and Future, at least, not really 21, but who at points in their music, not a lot, but at points discuss kind of how this is fucked up and they shouldn't be doing that, and they're just horny drug addicts, right? Yeah, Kendrick saying he feels bad for women and how they're a lot stronger than a lot of guys these days because so many of them have adopted this negative and fucked up mindscape that's just a realistic way to treat not just women in general, but to treat people, right? He's talking about the negative influence of some hip-hop stereotypes on popular culture. And that leads us into the chorus, which gets repeated a few times, and this is essentially a prayer. There's heavy religious undertones in this track. Here, Kendrick is praying for hip-hop. He's praying on hip-hop. God, give me life, dear God. Please give me peace, dear God. Please keep these lame people away from me, dear God. Keep me shining. The fuck do they really think? Pocket watching, you must be the police. God bless these words, dear God. Bless how I think, dear God. Draw the line. They trying to confuse them with me. Dear God, please forgive me. You knowing how hard I tried. I think it's time for me to watch the party die. Get them gone, we gonna watch the party die. Send them home, we gonna watch the party die. First of all, keep these lame guys away from Kendrick. Keep these lame guys away from me as well, because I want nothing to do with them. But this is kind of Kendrick standing on what he already stood on, but also repenting. He doesn't want these people, the mainstream media, to confuse Kendrick Lamar with any other type of person. He is not just his own person, but his own artist who stands for such different things than many other popular artists do. He's talking about how hard he tried and how he's ready to watch the party die. He's ready for hip-hop to maybe not be the most popular thing. Then we get into verse 2. And man, let me say I apologize. This is shaping up to be a long one so far. All right, to say the least. This is shaping up to be a long one. And again, here there's some pretty violent undertones on some of these tracks, right? Or on some of these bars. And I just want to say, it's definitely metaphorical. Kendrick does not actually want all these families mortified. He is just showing with these vivid, violent depictions how important his cause is to him of wanting to have hip-hop soul restored in a way, right? I think it's time to watch the party die. Street people and the corporate guys, the rappers that report the lies, I need their families mortified. We can do life without them. They got bodies organized. Tell me if you obliged. I think it's important how Kendrick calls out the way, not just the way that gang violence is glorified at points in hip hop music, right? Because a lot of people, when they rap about stuff like that, are also just rapping about their lived experiences. But we would be silly to sit here and pretend that there aren't certain rappers, songs, etc., that really glorify the violence and make it seem like a cool moral thing, right? And if people are involved with that, that's cool. That's none of my business, right? But Kendrick is, as someone who came from that type of upbringing, which I didn't, right? So I'm just going off of observations, right? It's not like I have any personal insight here. I'm just going off of observation and lyrics. But not just how he is calling people like that out, but more importantly, the corporate guys who are so calm and okay letting this stuff slide so they could profit off it and make a lot of money, right? The corporate guys are probably even more guilty of the glorification of this because in a lot of senses it sells. That's why he's saying he wants their families mortified, because that's immoral activity in Kendrick's book. No more pillow talk and jumpstarting neighborhood wars, dirty macking bitches because your spirit is insecure. The flashy guy with the nasty decisions using money as a backbone. I want his head cracked before he's back home. Again, very violent imagery, but again, he's calling an end to the neighborhood jumpstarting wars and to emotionally taking advantage and manipulating women just because you want sex. He's calling to an end for that. The radio personality pushing propaganda for salary. Let me know when they turn up a casualty. I want agony, assault, and battery. A lot of people are like, oh, this is about academics in particular. And let's be honest, it's not. Obviously, academics is a part of the problem, but he's just talking about media in general, how they push so many violent type of stories. There are so many like hip-hop media outlets, Instagram pages, YouTube pages that almost like encourage the violence in a way, the way they glorify it and the way they talk about it. And they do it to get paid, right? There are certain people in the media who are, again, pushing propaganda, not just about violence among young people, but just about hip-hop and all this stuff in general. Again, using very violent imagery to show how important this cause is to him. I see a new earth filled with beautiful people making humanity work. Let's kill the followers that follow up on poppin' mollies from the obvious degenerates that's failing to acknowledge the hope that we trying to spread. If I'm not his vote, then you need to bring his fucking head or film that shit in high res. This is another fucking great stanza where Kendrick's talking about his new earth, where he's, again, kind of talking about the hip-hop landscape being taken back by artists with integrity, by artists with artistic direction who aren't just making music to sell it, but because they have a message, because they have a vision that they want to put out there, right? He's, again, coming after these people who are popping mollies, calling them obvious degenerates, and also calling a lot of them followers because they're people who just follow the trends and they turn their fan base into followers who follow in their poor decision makings that they rap about at points. Again, bring his fucking head. We're talking about more violent imagery that Kendrick is using to get across the importance of his point. Then we get the chorus again, Kendrick's little prayer, right? And verse 3. And this verse is really interesting because we kind of get like, I feel like each verse builds on itself. Like the first one gives the foundation of Kendrick being tired of this stuff being on the mainstream, right? He's tired of the glorification of all these negative things, right? He's calling to an end to it. Then verse 2, Kendrick gets a little bit more in particular, calling out certain groups of people, calling out certain types of activity and calling for a stop, using this vivid, violent imagery. And now we get to verse 3, where he intertwines religion and faith into all this, which makes sense because we've been getting the prayer on the chorus where Kendrick's reiterating, dear God, dear God. And this builds on religiously because we get references to Christian rappers, Lecrae and D1. I can't say I've ever listened to either of these guys really, but I do know from, again, other content that I've watched post this, that Lecrae and Kendrick Lamar are actually good friends in real life, right? Lecrae also dropped his own version of this song, kind of responding to Kendrick on the same beat. I honestly haven't heard it yet, so maybe my opinion on this is all nixed out because I haven't heard that. I'm lacking for that, and I apologize. But let's start off verse 3. Sometimes I wonder what Lecrae would do. Fuck these guys up or just show them what prayer do. I want to be empathetic, my heart like D1, but I will. It's time to get these devils out the way. Heavy metals on my sword. We settle hard disputes today. The ghetto Hollywood divorce. Say hello to your future fate. The culture bred with carnivores. You let You let them snack, they eat your face, the signatures being forged. Those last two bars are actually really fucking great. Say hello to your future fate, the culture bred with carnivores. You let them snack, they eat your face, the signature is being forged. He's kind of talking about how a lot of these rappers are selling out, not necessarily selling out their integrity or selling their souls to the devil, as people say, but like how vicious it really is in the game, and how a lot of people will take advantage of people and situations just to get to the top. Kind of like how he might be implying that people take advantage of hip hop as a genre to make money by making very negative and more maybe party type music, even though that's not what the genre stands for in Kendrick's mind, and just in general, that's not what it stands for, obviously. They wonder why I'm not enthused to drop. The more visible you get, the more your spirituals is tried. Kendrick's talking about not wanting to be in the public eye, right? It's cynical to say I know these artists petrified. The end result, in jail by Jezebel or drugged up full of lies. Critical, I know my physical tested all the time. I'm pitiful, sunk in place soon as I'm questioning my pride. Kendrick's talking about some of his personal tribulations in his life and also with his faith, saying that, when he gets low, maybe he reverts to negative coping mechanisms, or he reverts to a negative state of mind, possibly as well, talking about the sunken place. You would assume when he's questioning his pride, he's having some deep thoughts about himself and is deep in his introspective bed, maybe having negative thoughts about himself. I'm seeing ghosts blacking out, relapsing one thought at a time. I spare no feelings that ain't mine. I'm in my feelings when I slide. I like this bar a lot because, first of all, it's a very individualistic bar for a song that's so collectivist, group oriented. It's about the party. It's about the party dying. It's about taking hip hop back for the people. But now he's talking about when it comes down to business, when it comes to what he had to do, he's only cared about his feelings. Not he's only caring about his feelings, but he doesn't care about other people's. He has his message that he wants to get across, and he's not ashamed of it. He's not going to let the maybe public opinion or perception get to him about it, because this is what he has to say, and he's going to say it with his chest. And then, of course, I'm in my feelings when I slide. Possibly an allusion to Drake, his two biggest and also corniest songs, or two of his biggest songs that are also his two corniest songs, his two biggest sellout songs, you could say, In My Feelings, Tootsie Slide. Maybe that's just grasping at straws, right? Because the bar makes sense as is, right? If Kendrick's feeling some type of way, he's going to do something about it, right? He's going to say something about it, right? But also, again, and it's not just a reference to Drake, but it's a reference to the fast food hip-hop culture, to these not really rap songs, these pop rap songs that become the most popular hip-hop songs because they're made by a hip-hop adjacent artist, even though they're really just pop rap, pop trap, whatever. Talks about wondering what Lecrae would do again. Terrace Martin said, I'm mentally with layers true. I flood the market with my best regards. I paid your dues. And so it's up if you ain't one of ours, it's bad news. My guy Jay Estrada said, I gotta burn it down to build it up. That confirmation real as fuck, ain't too many real as us. Looking into what I trust, looking outside. The kids live tomorrow, because today the party just died. This is, again, a very potent last couple of bars. So let's go through it real quick. First of all, he's talking about, or commented, a lot of rappers flood the market with their music, right? But he says he flooded them with his best regards, which, very nice of him, right? He's talking about how he always tries to bring some type of advice, insightful, motivational. He always has some positive messaging or undertones in his music. We know that about Kendrick. Even when it's negative, he's still promoting ideals like self-growth or accountability. He also says, I paid your dues. Maybe saying, again, maybe an allusion to Drake, that has been so honest in his music that he's doing it to make up for the people who aren't. And if so, you ain't one of ours, it's bad news. Now, here comes that Not Like Us, right? There's been a lot of talk. Of course, Not Like Us is a huge party track, but when that track comes out, the us is black people. I'm not the us. The us is people who are of hip-hop culture. I'm not the us. And this track is reaffirming that. This track is very potently reaffirming that, because one of us isn't just a black person, and it isn't just someone who is in the hip-hop industry. It is someone who's from a hip-hop background and now is using their art form to contribute to it and make music with passion and with purpose that people can resonate with it. That's who I think us is. Not just African American people in America, not just people who are hip hop adjacent or whatever. That is the particular group I think Kendrick is referencing here with the us. Some rappers that I think fall into that category, the Denzel Currys, Jids, and Joey Badass of the world, people who represent what people call real hip hop, right? And make music with integrity and make music to spread good messages, share about themselves, them lives, and to really just give back to the genre that is so important to them. Then he talks about Jay Estrada. I don't know who Jay Estrada is, but he said, let me actually hit the Genius annotation because I just did a Google search and couldn't find anything. All right, this is allegedly a Christian person that Kendrick follows on Twitter, and he's referencing something that Kendrick told him. So, okay, that's Jay Estrada. What he said is, I gotta burn it down to build it up. He's also talking about how he values his opinion, right? He said that confirmation is real as fuck, so he values his opinion highly, right? And burn it down to build it up is what Kendrick's talking about. The party is dying, and hip-hop, the mainstream hip-hop, whatever version of hip-hop you want to talk about, is going to be built anew by people like him and by people who have high value and respect for the art form. I mean, that's what he's saying. Not too many real as us, and the kids will live tomorrow because the party died. Another pretty profound bar talking about how, with the party dying, he thinks that will be something that overall benefits the youth and the children of today. The people, the young people will be better off affected if Drake type music stops coming out in the mainstream. But yeah, I'm excited personally to watch the party die. I enjoy some mainstream songs, right? Like, I'm not anti-mainstream or anti-this or anti-that. But what I am pro is bringing intentional hip-hop to the forefront. Music that is made with the purpose of creating great art, not music that is made with the purpose of being sold. Music that artists, again, that I referenced before, not just Kendrick, but Denzel, Jid, Vince Staples, Schoolboy Q, Joey Badass, and so many others put so much effort into and put so much love and vulnerability and honesty and purpose into. I would love to see that get a mainstream resurgence and just not maybe become more popular, but to see more artists go in that direction, because that's what real hip-hop is about, in my opinion at least. But yeah, this is going longer than I wanted it to. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling this song. Give me your interpretation of it below. Be sure to follow the IG, like, subscribe, put the bell, all that shit. Go over to Spotify. Be sure to follow the Talking Hip Hop Show there for a weekly podcast where I talk about my music taste. But yeah, thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate y'all, and I hope you're all doing well, and I'll see you next time. Peace.